Hello, all the lovely souls out there. Today I am going to read a piece, and it is actually Swamiji, it means Swami Vivekananda's contribution to the discussion of this question that I'm going to talk about, carried on in the pages of the New York Morning Advertiser. And I am going to read it from this book called Life After Death, included including a very beautiful subtitle which says none has power to destroy the unchangeable, which is definitely taken from Bhagavad Gita, and it is by Swami Vivekananda. And this book actually I have bought years back in a book fair, and I didn't read it properly. So I thought of reading it along with you, and really interested to know what he said about our soul and its immorality. Let's dive into it. So, the question is the soul immortal? In the great Sanskrit epic, the Mahabharata, the story is told how the hero, Yudhishthira, when asked by Dharma to tell what was the most wonderful thing in the world, replied that it was the persistent belief of mankind in their own deathlessness in spite of their witnessing death everywhere around them almost every moment of their lives. And in fact, this is the most stupendous wonder in human life. In spite of all arguments to the contrary urged in different times by different schools, in spite of the inability of reason to penetrate the veil of mystery which will ever hang between the sensuous and the supersensuous worlds, man is thoroughly persuaded that he cannot die. We may study all our lives and, in the end, fail to bring the problem of life and death to the plane of rational demonstration, affirmative or negative. We may talk or write, preach or teach, for or against the permanency or impermanency of human existence as much as we like. We may become violent partisans of the side of this side or that. We may invent names by the hundred, each more intricate than its predecessor, and lull ourselves into a momentary rest under the delusion of our having resolved the problem once for all. We may cling with all our powers to any one of the curious religious superstitions or the far more objectionable scientific superstitions, but in the end, we find ourselves playing an eternal game in the bowling alley of reason and raising intellectual pin after pin only to be knocked over again and again. But behind all this mental strain and torture, not infrequently productive of more dangerous results than mere games, stands a fact unchangeable and unchallengeable, the fact, the wonder, which the Mahabharata points out as the inability of our mind to conceive our own annihilation. Even to imagine my own annihilation, I shall have to stand by and look on as a witness. Now, before trying to understand what this curious phenomenon means, we want to note that upon this one fact the whole world stands. The permanence of the external world is inevitably joined to the permanence of the internal. And however plausible any theory of the universe may seem, which asserts the permanence of the one and denies that of the other, the theorist himself will find that in his own mechanism, not one conscious action is possible. without the permanence of both the internal and the external worlds being one of the factors in the motive cause. Although it is perfectly true that when the human mind transcends its own limitations, it finds the duality reduced to an indivisible unity. On this side of the unconditioned, the whole objective world, that is to say, the world we know, is and can be alone known to us as existing for the subject, and therefore, before we would be able to conceive the annihilation of the subject, we are bound to conceive the annihilation of the object. So far, it is plain enough, but now comes the difficulty. I cannot think of myself ordinarily as anything else but a body. My idea of my own permanence includes my idea of myself as a body. But the body is obviously impermanent, as is the whole of nature, a constantly vanishing quantity. Where then is the permanence? There is one more wonderful phenomenon connected with our lives without which who will be able to live, who will be able to enjoy life a moment? The idea of freedom. Now, this is the idea that guides each footstep of ours, makes our movements possible, determines our relations to each other, nay, is the very wrap and whoop in the fabric of human life. Intellectual knowledge tries to drive it inch by inch from its territory, post after post is snatched away from its domains, and each step is made fast and iron bound with the railroadings of cause and effect. But it laughs at all our attempts, and lo, it keeps itself above all this massive pile of law and causation with which we try to smother it to death. How can it be otherwise? The limited always requires a higher generalization of the unlimited to explain itself. The bound can only be explained by the free, the caused by the uncaused. But again, the same difficulty is also here. What is free? The body or even the mind? It is apparent to all that they are as much bound by law as anything else in the universe. Now the problem resolves itself into this dilemma. Either the whole universe is a mass of never ceasing change and nothing more, irrevocably bound by the law of causation, not one particle having a unity of itself, yet is curiously producing an ineradicable delusion of permanence and freedom, or there is in us and in the universe something which is permanent and free, showing that the basal constitutional belief of the human mind is not a delusion. It is the duty of science to explain facts by bringing them to a higher generalization. Any explanation, therefore, that first wants to destroy a part of the fact given to be explained in order to fit itself to the remainder is not scientific, whatever else it may be. So, any explanation that wants to overlook the fact of this persistent and all necessary idea of freedom commits the above mentioned mistake of denying a portion of the fact in order to explain the rest and is therefore wrong. The only other alternative possible then is to acknowledge, in harmony with our nature, that there is something in us which is free and permanent. But it is not the body, neither is it the mind. The body is dying every minute. The mind is constantly changing. The body is a combination, and so is the mind. And as such, can never reach to a state beyond all change. But beyond this momentary seething of gross matter, beyond even the finer covering of the mind, is the Atma, the true self of man, the permanent, the ever free. It is his freedom that is percolating through layers of thought and matter, and in spite of the colorings of name and form, is ever asserting its unshakable existence. It is His deathlessness, His bliss, His peace, His divinity that shines out and makes itself felt in spite of the thickest layers of ignorance. He is the real man, the fearless one, the deathless one, the free. So now freedom is only possible when no external power can exert any influence, produce any change. Freedom is only possible to the being who is beyond all conditions, all laws, all bondages of cause and effect. In other words, the unchangeable alone can be free and therefore immortal. This being, this Atma, this real self of man, the free, the unchangeable, is beyond all conditions, and as such, it has neither birth nor death. Without birth or death, eternal, ever existing, is the soul of man. Thank you. Let me know what is your understanding on this. Soon I'll come with another piece from this book. Thank you.